Call the meeting to order. Courts and Public Safety Committee. We'll stand for the pledge of allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so before we adopt the agenda, we're going to remove one item, which would be the juvenile officer report from Janelle Mott. So then with that being removed, can we go on to adopt the agenda from
Yes.
that point on?
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
adopt the agenda.
And then
I'll second.
support, okay. And public comment? We have 3 minutes per person. Are you giving a report or you're going to comment too? Okay, okay, okay. Okay. Okay, so public comments closed and Michelle Reed, Animal Control Officer, is going to give her report.
We haven't been. A whole lot was. If you just use this information, but you might find it,
Okay.
you want some too. There you go. Okay, so. Thank you. For your, at night when you can't sleep, you have something.
Did we forget to take the vote for the agenda? Oh, okay. All in favor? Did it?
I thought they did a voice vote. I know.
No. No. Okay. So all in favor of that, aye.
Hey,
Okay,
we're adopting the agenda.
okay, all right. Okay, Michelle, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So I don't have 2024 shelter stats done just yet. Maybe everything from 2017 till through 2023. I can tell you that we took in 322 animals in 2024. Oh. Roughly, and this is unofficial numbers, until I have time to sit down and really comb through it, but roughly 274 dogs and 48 cats. There was a bunch of livestock that never went into the shelter. That's just the animals that went into the shelter. I know there was a goat and I have to go through the rest to see exactly what was in there. But once you go through the animal shelter annual report, you'll see that there's been a steady increase every single year. This year's not any different. We are constantly kind of over capacity. But shelter staff and volunteers, they do a great job.
Can I just ask one question? It says your statistics on this report are for 23. Should it be for 24 or?
No, I don't have 24 done yet.
Okay.
So 24 and the unofficial numbers would be 274 dogs and 48 cats.
So almost some kind of.
Almost the same as last year. Cats, typically, we don't get cats in unless they're part of an animal neglect case. Where there's a large number of cats, there's been a hoarding or more.
Yeah.
That's the most hoarded animal in the country. So.
Okay. So I think we would need a motion to file the report.
If you can find it.
I know that you usually kind of do all of them, but do you want to just do it individual
What's that?
to file the report? Or you didn't have any more to add or?
Well, I didn't know exactly what questions you kind of wanted answered. I know in the graphs, people are always asking like, where the animals came from, and if you look at the graphs, you'll see that at a little over 50% of the animals typically come from the city of Alpena. With Alpena Township following, close behind with a 25%. And all the other townships kind of make up the rest. So that's where most of the animals come from. Animal complaints. They continuously, if you look at the graph, there are more and more complaints every year. I don't see that getting better. And then, of course, the shelter intake has continued to grow as well. And that's not just Alpena either, that is nationwide is seeing that problem.
Then you have the two natural, well, not natural, the fires on one coast and the hurricane on the other coast, you know, a lot of displaced animals. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Shelters everywhere are struggling. We're no different.
How many animals can you keep in a shelter here?
So we're licensed for, when we originally got licensed, we were licensed for, I believe it was 15 dogs and 50 cats, but that was while we were still able to use the main kennel room to house cats from hoarding situations.
Mhm.
That is now housing dogs. The only place we have to house cats is mainly the office. We have 6 permanent cat cages in the office. We currently have 8 cats. We have a ferret cage that's in there. It's kind of a cat playground. And then another crate that we use for the 8th cat. So there's 8 cats in the office. Our bathroom we're like the IKEA shelter. So every room has multiple.
Litter boxes.
Yes, so the bathroom kind of is, intake overflow, it's our isolation room, it's our, for cats or dogs, it's where the food pantry is. That's, kind of what we use that room for. So to answer your question, we're actually licensed for 15 dogs and 50 cats, but we cannot house that way anymore, so. Right now, I think we currently have 16 dogs in-house. We have some dogs in foster. And actually 17, we just took in one from Second Chance, a neglect case. That came in, so that's being intaken as we
So
speak.
you came over from Second Chance?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
they took the dog in on Saturday, notified me today. I just came back from the vet, so they're taking the dog over to the animal control shelter right now.
How do they do that then? Are they like a Huron Humane Society or?
They are a protection shelter, yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, okay. Well, good information, sad as it is.
If you have questions, fire away, because I'm not sure exactly what you wanted to know, and if I don't have it here with me today, I will get it to you, or,
I'm not really sure what I need to know, but,
yeah, come visit.
but this is, yeah. I would just have to absorb this, but, yeah.
That's why I kind of just threw a bunch of stuff at you right now to kind of take a look at, and if it brings up questions.
You had a contact, I think I saw something where you had your email or something on there,
I believe,
maybe?
I think it's on the shelter report.
On the report, I think it was.
Has my email and phone number on it.
I don't have any questions now.
You adopt the dogs out after?
Yes, once the criminal case is done or the owner surrenders the animal even during the criminal case, then we get them processed and adopted out. And when we get dogs ready to adopt out, they are fully vaccinated, not just up to date. So they come fully vaccinated with core vaccine, Bordetella, rabies. We heartworm test the dogs. We feline leukemia test the cats. microchip, deworm, flea medication, whatever it is they need. If they need, like the one that just came in is gonna need a dental. So we'll get a dental done on that dog.
So those are mainly like criminal cases that you have over there. They're not like, okay, I see the
Right.
difference
So
now.
the control shelter,
Right.
and we spay and neuter. Nothing leaves the shelter until it's spayed and neutered, if it's age appropriate, whenever at all possible. We are a huge believer in responsible sheltering, so we're gonna do it the right way. That's why our adoption fees are a little bit more than some places, but
Oh, okay.
it's well worth it in the end. So the difference between a control shelter and a protection shelter is control shelters, main population in the shelter are animals that are part of a criminal case.
Okay.
So they have some legality associated with them. Dogs running at large, neglect, abuse, abandonment, that type of thing. We can take in owner surrenders, and if at all possible, I mean, there are times when people are just super desperate and the other shelters aren't taking them in or whatever. If we can help them out, we can. We haven't been able to do that for quite some time because we're always full of, court cases, so we haven't been able to help too much in that arena.
Do you find it's hard to find homes because most of them are probably from abandonment or abuse?
Not really.
I've adopted some, so they can be.
Yep,
they-
Absolutely. So they get better in our care.
Yeah,
When they come in from these animal neglect and abuse situations, that shelter is the best life they know to date.
yeah.
And they get better in our care. They're getting training, they're getting medical, they're getting, worked with and socialized. So that when they are adopted out, we can find that best match home and we don't, we don't get.
Excuse me? What?
He said they're getting fed because a lot of them that come in are emaciated.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Most of them are naked from flea allergies and,
yeah.
it depends, but like, that's why I say when people volunteer, and these guys can speak too, but, when you see an animal change behaviorally and physically, knowing the situation that they came from, to watch that happen in front of your eyes and be a part of that
Mhm.
is amazing. But I wouldn't say that we have a hard time adopting animals out. Every once in a while, it's finding the best match, right? So that the animal is successful and the adopter is successful. We don't want them to get shuffled around or returned back to the shelter. So we do have a pretty rigorous adoption application process. If we're not getting any traction on the animals that we have up for adoption, we do have networking that, we have partners throughout the state and other states and even Canada that we work with. Sometimes it just takes a new zip code and they,
Oh, heck, you go on Facebook and you look like animal control here and then everybody sheltered around shows up on Facebook. Everybody shows up.
sometimes it just takes a new zip code and they fly right off the shelf.
Yeah.
So
Oh, okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Does anybody have any more questions or?
No, I'm good.
I do have a couple questions.
Okay,
Actually, it's not related probably to this information, obviously, because I haven't had a chance to look at it, but one of the questions that came up with that invoice that was submitted. So a couple questions that I had on that is normally when we do kennels, you're the one inspecting the kennels, correct?
Yes.
So when we house the animals at other places, I guess, how do we, what policies, practices do we have for, I guess, the housing of those animals wherever they are, like in your case? So do you need to be inspected? Do you need to have a license to do that? And then do we need that? Does someone need to have insurance? So let's just say with those goats, was it?
Mhm.
So those goats, we have goats and then something happened to 5 of the goats. If the owner comes back, could we get,
As far as live evidence goes, I suppose. Has it ever happened? Not that I know of.
as far as what?
Somebody being sued because of something happening to the livestock. You know, you'd have to wait, you know, for the disposition of the case and, you know, who gets ownership of the animals, but, you know, there's always a possibility, but, you know, where does livestock go? So that was one of the big things. There was a lot of it, and we weren't, with the case he's talking about, like, we weren't talking just regular horses. We were talking Mustangs, wild Mustangs. So they take special fencing to keep them contained. And not only that, but you're dealing with, so when you're talking about housing, yes, in order to move that evidence to find housing, one, had to meet MDARD regulations, right? So just for example, with horses, we could not house those horses anywhere where there were other horses within a half a mile.
Oh,
Well, most of the people that want to help you with horses have horses.
right.
So, you know, that was kind of an issue.
Remember that?
Poultry that's moving needs to be tested before it's moved. Cattle, before cattle are moved, are supposed to be tested. You know, there's different regulations and things that have to happen in order to be able to house those animals where they're housed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not gonna have, you know, Joe Blow show up with a trailer and say, I can house goats and sheep at my house without inspecting his house first.
Well, that's what I mean. So
Right.
but I'm going back to your particular invoice that was submitted.
Mhm.
So I guess who would inspect you?
Me? I guess you're more than welcome to come out and inspect.
Well, no, I'm just, that's what I'm asking. So
Yeah.
if we're gonna house things, shouldn't there, if we're following a protocol, standard protocol, then we're inspecting, like you're inspecting somebody else, like the horses or whatever.
Mhm.
I guess, and again, I'm not, just on the surface, it kind of looks a little bit, you know, I guess concerning to me that if we got to inspect other people, then who inspects you?
No idea. I would hope that you would trust your animal control officer to know what she's doing. You know, I've been a vet tech I was a licensed vet tech for over 20 years. I know how to house and care for animals.
The state doesn't have any programming where they come and inspect at all for the city or?
They don't. So as far as shelters go, we get inspected once a year. In fact, I gave you the part where it says animal shelter requirements. That's what they're looking for when they inspect the shelter.
Okay.
And who's they?
MDARD.
Or
Do you have any puppies right now?
We just adopted out the last puppy.
I think I was watching those, that one. Yeah.
This was foster mom.
Oh.
Madam Chair, if I could ask a couple questions, follow up to the commissioner's questions. Ms. Shaw, on the inspections, are they then required to have a license? And if so, do you have a license for your facility?
You do not need a license, no.
Okay. Are they required to carry any type of insurance?
No.
Are there
So it'd be
any?
just like a foster.
Okay,
So instead of doing a foster of an animal that is available for adoption, like we're talk dogs and cats. So if you put a dog into foster, she doesn't need insurance. She doesn't, you know, of course, we're inspecting the place to make sure that it's legit and it's not going into a bad place. You know, like with our dog fosters, you know, most of them, we require a fenced in yard. You know, there's different things that we as a shelter are looking for. There's not necessarily a state requirement of what a foster needs. As far as live evidence, kind of the same thing. We have a separate contract as far as live evidence goes. Fostering of live evidence and
At one point, because I did ask that, because I remember when Jesse and I actually visited the shelter, you had, I think it was 3 dogs at that time that were being housed at the animal control building. And I remember specifically talking to Jesse about this, that, and maybe even ask, and I can't remember if I did ask, but to me, if you have, and if those dogs were live evidence, I thought I was told that that you couldn't foster those out because they're live evidence.
Right. Well, we can't bring livestock into the shelter.
I get
So as
that.
far as, I mean, because that's still live evidence. So what we do with that live evidence is there is a shelter in Michigan. It's Ark Nation. And they do house out a lot of live evidence from dogfighting cases. And that's who we got our,
I've heard of them, yeah.
yep, that's who we got our live evidence foster paperwork from and kind of geared it off of that.
For the shelter, you mean? You got the live evidence paperwork from them for the shelter?
Yeah.
Yep.
My only other question is, has anything ever been brought up, any type of concern over liability for the fact that the person who's holding the animals is also making a profit off of animals, even if it's not much? Can that at all be detrimental to a case?
No, because once they're surrendered, they can,
Okay,
so once they're surrendered, I mean, they're that person's or that shelter or that
oh,
sanctuary.
this is only surrendered animals. So this isn't like one where they're
Right,
like,
live evidence can't just go anywhere.
okay. But I mean, like, okay, so what you hold is not live evidence, it's surrendered animals.
Right.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you.
Well, it is now. It was live evidence at one point until it was surrendered
But it was live evidence while on your property?
to begin with, yes.
Okay, so is there any potential of there being any litigation or liability to the county by having the person who's in charge basically withholding the animals?
No,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay,
personally, I can't think of anyone better to house the live evidence.
I would agree. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have
The
to.
person in charge.
So in that particular case, you talked about the restitution. So what happened, and I'm sure if they can't pay it, then, you know, whatever, they end up owing us. But, so what do you do in those cases where, they're required to pay restitution for the cost to house those animals and then they aren't able to pay it?
Well, that's court ordered. They have to pay that back.
And do they always pay? Because I remember something where the individuals are required to pay the restitution, but if they can't pay it, you know, if you can't pay it, they can't pay it. I mean, what do,
If it's a court ordered, if the court says you need to pay this amount of money, then they have to pay that or they go to jail. There will be a warrant for them and then they go to jail for failure to pay.
so in all cases where, and again, I don't know how you do that, but going back to those dogs that were in the shelter for 8 months or whatever it was, 10 months. If they're, and again, I don't know how you calculate that, but I'm sure there's a cost per day per animal that we could calculate. So in those cases, you go back and say that individual pays restitution for that animal for the 10 months while it was in
Yes,
our care.
yes. Veterinary fees, the impound, the initial day, impound day, daily fees, veterinary fees.
So how would I, if I were to look, where would I go to look to see the restitution? How could I find that? Well,
It's usually in the report.
well, no, I mean, I'm saying like,
Court.
if I go to what?
What's coming in on restitution.
Yeah. Where would I look at that? Is it coming into animal
So
control?
the court usually gives that in a monthly payment. And you get that all the time coming in, right? That goes to cat, sheep.
So the restitution actually goes back into animal control. Or,
If it was paid for out of professional services, it goes back into the general fund, right?
Yes.
Goes back into the general fund.
But I'll check with district court on that specific question, see if we can, parallel restitution.
okay.
That is a good question.
Mhm.
That's all I have.
So
Okay. No, I'm just thinking,
there are,
yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk city restitution.
By what?
City restitution. So when we get city animal, so it's a city case, animal neglect case, and the animals come to the animal control shelter. We have restitution in their case as well.
But then a lot of times the city doesn't know where it comes from, because when I worked at the city clerk treasurer's office, we would get checks for restitution and we would have to call the court and we'd give them the number and then they'd say so-and-so and so-and-so. And some of them are just payments.
Right. Most of the time, they're pretty good. If there's a restitution
Yeah,
in a case that involves animal control, they'll call and they'll say who did they pay the restitution to? So they've gotten much better at asking.
yeah. I mean, that's all we had to do was call and find out. Have a number. I mean, if you had a number.
So you just said city restitution. Are you saying that the city actually sends money to the county or?
No, so it's their criminal case, but we're housing their animals for them. Therefore, we have daily care, we have impound fees, we have vet fees. We're basically proving the case for them when they bring in a neglected animal. So we are,
Well, so when you say city restitution or when you have a case, let's just say hoarding case in the city and you go collect all those animals,
so it's not my case, it's a city
it
case.
is a city case?
Yes, it is their case.
I don't
So that
remember ever
doesn't-
paying the county for that. I wonder if that has ever been done.
So the city.
I don't know.
Their lawyers to then process the case?
Well, it would be the prosecutor because it's a criminal case. So it would be just like my case, only a city police officer is handling the case.
Okay,
But we have their live evidence.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Do they
we
pay
do
us
restitution.
restitution?
What's
Do
that?
they pay us restitution?
Well, they're supposed to.
I don't.
Whoever the case is against is supposed to pay restitution to us, but I do spend a lot of time making sure that they know we have restitution. We'll be, that Alpena County is asking for restitution in this city case.
Well, I would think, I mean, there is no, unless it goes to Huron Humane Society, which it's not going to go to Huron Humane Society, all that restitution should literally come back to the county then.
Yes.
I mean, it's not that difficult to figure out because it may be their case, but the actual housing of the animal is on the county.
Correct.
Well, but, okay, wait.
So it's just making sure
The
that
county charges.
so it's just making sure that we get that restitution back.
But they don't collect on the rest. The city doesn't collect on the
Well,
restitution.
they should if it's a case,
Yep.
then
No.
and Cynthia would know that.
Right. I usually contact the prosecutor's office and let them know, hey, on this city case, Alpena County is seeking restitution in this case. And they've gotten much better as far as if it's an animal neglect case, they typically call me and say, is there any restitution in this case? Or, who are they paying?
It might be
Usually it's Alpena County.
okay. It'd be good to find out though.
I'll drill down on the restitution at this.
Yeah.
Get you guys.
Yeah, because I mean, we have a couple cases in there right now, that we've been housing since March of last year. City cases, and we're well over 10 grand in restitution on those cases.
Cause I remember like the law enforcement, let's just say the inspectors would get in, you don't do the law and they write you up and then you get a violation and you go to court and the court would, people would show up and they get fined and they pay the court and then the county would turn around and pay the city that restitution. But I don't remember anything with animals. And I know that we used to handle a lot of payments or I did accounts payable and I don't ever remember paying.
Right, hopefully they came right to us, so,
I was just gonna say, you would think that they would
right.
go
I
to,
get a lot of calls like, who do they pay restitution to?
You get it from the
So-
police department? Maybe it's all handled internally through the police department
I think it goes through district court.
Prosecutor.
because
Through district court.
there is stuff collected revenue through the police department that they collect on stuff and then they turn it in. I don't know if that's part of it. That could be. That could be. Find out. Okay. One more question?
Make a motion to
Yeah, let's
receive
make a
file the
motion.
report.
Yeah,
Okay. I'll make a
Okay.
motion.
Dan.
I'll support.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
And Kim Elke.
Everybody in favor of that?
Oh, everybody, yeah, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye, okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So I have a few updates for you. So for the month of January, we processed 766 911 calls for a total of 1,915 separate incidents, which would include traffic stops, non-emergency calls, those kind of things. So we had 1,915 incidents that we processed, and we processed 27 incidents that we received via text. We started training today. Last fall, we purchased some new call handling equipment for dispatch. We started training for that today. Training will continue tomorrow. We are scheduled to cut over to the new system the first week in March, so we're looking forward to that. Our quarterly meetings, that's local emergency planning committee, the local planning team, and central dispatch committee meetings are coming up next week, February 20th. And Commissioner Bray and Commissioner Britton sit on those, so we're looking forward to that. As you probably know, we operate outside of a few funds that we get from the ambulance millage to help us with some equipment purchases, things like that. We operate solely using the 911 surcharge funds. So we try to be really frugal in our endeavors with that. And with some really great partnership across the county, we accomplished a really cool feat last week. And I'm excited to tell you a little bit about it. It saved us about $30,000.
Wow.
So we currently have 3 dispatch stations. With the new equipment, we ordered equipment for 4 because we will have this equipment for a while and we want to allow ourselves room to expand. And it's cheaper to purchase it as a group than going back and ordering additional components. So we ordered 4 sets, but we only have seating arrangements for 3. And they're about $30,000 to buy a new one. And so I saw on a chat board through the state 911 directors discussion board that Ottawa County down by Grand Rapids had some hand-me-down. So it was a bit of a hot mess trying to figure out how we were going to get them here. The long story short is that Administrator Osmer asked maintenance to help us out, and they rented a trailer, and a couple of the guys went down and hauled it home and helped us put it together. And we now have a 4th unit to have for growing into, and it cost us some gas and a couple meals and a U-Haul.
Awesome.
So the sheriff had offered us the use of a truck and a trailer. But they had already gone and rented the U-Haul, so, but I was very grateful for the sheriff's offer of help and for the administrators reaching out to the maintenance team. That's a sizable amount of money that we saved. And I'm very grateful for that. That keeps $1,000 in our fund balance. So, that's said,
Proud.
I am, and it's great to have such great partners. Good county to help us out like that. So, yeah. If you have any questions.
I'm good. Everybody else is good?
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take a motion to file and
Receive and
receive.
file.
I'll make it.
I'll make that motion.
Bill, okay,
I'll support
all in
it.
favor? Aye, okay.
All in favor.
All right.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner Osmer, the PFAS.
So you should have all received the supporting documents for this item. This is the same law firm that we worked with on the opioid remediation. It's kind of the same setup. There's no risk. If we don't win the case, we don't pay anything. They get paid if we get paid. And they take a certain amount out of that. We did do a Zoom, a few of us last week with some of the attorneys. I think the only 2 things worth noting really is that the way they're approaching this as of right now, and it could change, is it would come with no strings attached. So unlike the opioid remediation funds, which came and you can only spend this percentage on this and you can spend 10% every other year on something else, and it's very not difficult, but there's many steps in order to make sure that you're spending the funds the way they're supposed to be spent. This money would come at no strings attached. Where that might become a burden to the county is trying to figure out how to spend it in a way that the community would find acceptable. That's something we can discuss down the road. I think that we can still keep it within the arena of addressing the PFAS contamination out at the airport. But it would be my recommendation that this committee put forth a recommendation to go ahead and sign on to that litigation to the full board. It will be on board tomorrow's consideration, or tomorrow, sorry, it'll be on the agenda for tomorrow's consideration. But again, it's really no risk, so I really don't see an issue with
Okay.
it going forward.
And legal has looked at it and okayed it? Of course.
We did not run it through legal because it's the same, they are our attorneys. We're already paying them, so they are legal.
Who pays the incidental costs? There was something in here about, we have to pay, like, they have to pay the, like,
Reference.
paper and
No, there should be zero cost. I didn't see incidental in there. Well, let me open this up real quick.
There's a spot where they kind of outline it.
They'll probably be rolled into the total that they would absorb if they
They would
in the case.
sort of all.
So what they're saying is on top of their hourly, if they have to do printing or running or paying somebody to serve somebody, that would be in addition to their hourly rate.
One motion to.
To move it, to take it to the board
yeah, take it to the
tomorrow.
board.
Mhm.
They all make the motion.
The motion would be to take it to full board with recommendation to sign on.
To sign off. Okay.
I'll second.
Motion by Bill and Dan. And then, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So now the ambulance monthly report, the medical examiner's monthly report, and Veterans Affairs monthly report. So if everyone's okay, it doesn't have any questions, and we'll.
I have a question.
You do?
Yeah. And I don't know if Kim can tell me this. So I noticed on this one, we had transfers to other funds in January for 135,500, which puts us at 100% of that budget used in the past, and I didn't annotate what it was. It was a gradual amount that was transferred. It wasn't all 135. Do you know? Yeah. You know what see, it's nice if they put transfers to other fund and then they put an annotation next to it, like in some cases they do. 210, 651, 995.000.
So I can tell you in January, 911 received from the ambulance fund 60,500.
So the report that we have for the revenue and expense report, one that's on here, maybe I can I'll probably talk to Cindy tomorrow. I'm just curious if you knew what this 135,000 was that was transferred.
No, we received 60,500, but then we would have received, after the budget adjustments were done, we would have received, some additional funds for projects that were not completed last year that, we needed to carry the money over to this year in 911, but that would be transferred from 911 back to 911, so that wouldn't be that. So for us, it was just 60,500 from the ambulance fund.
Like I said, it's not a huge deal. I didn't know whether you might know what that is.
Sorry.
Because like I said, I just was looking at the other revenue expense reports from last year. And it was not all at once. It was like 18 and then the other one.
So there'd have been 75 transferred for the central tower lease, and then my 60,000, but other than that, I'm not sure what else that would be for.
Yeah, so like last year in July, we had 18,750 transferred that month to bring it up to 131,000. And then, like I said, this one here, it's 135,500. I'll just make a note and then I'll talk to,
Okay, yeah, I received the revenue and expenditure reports and a balance sheet on that every month, but I don't have any access to be able to go in and see where the money was transferred to. I just get the static reports.
okay, no big deal. Thanks.
Certainly.
Okay, all set?
Yep.
Okay. So then so we've got the reports filed. And there's no other discussion?
I could give it, like, if it's okay, it's something that needs attention, but just so you guys aren't caught off guard. We did have a little bit of difficulty trying to figure out where to put a particular item, so it just went before the full board. It bypassed all committees because it could have fit into a few of the different committees. And that's on the matter of the emergency manager position, and us teaming up with Montmorency. So we just did meet with Montmorency late last week. Kim Elke and I did. And John as well. And April came over from Montmorency. That's my counterpart in that area. And the chairman's counterpart zoomed in. And decided that we're gonna merge the two counties, have one person overseeing both full-time. Kim would then be going full-time with 911. The 911 fund is a different fund, so it won't affect the general budget. As far as the emergency management position, we're projecting roughly a $5,000 to $10,000 savings for our county annually, if we do this. So it's not a lot if it's on the low end. If it's on the high end, great, but either way, it is a savings, and we're looking for every dollar we can right now, so. And that would, I believe we decided, Chairman, do you remember, was it a 4-year contract? I left my notes.
5, just because of the,
That's right, a 5-year contract. That, it could have went in personnel because technically it's a new hire.
I read about it somewhere. I don't know where.
It could have went towards some public safety because technically it's emergency management. So we decided, well, this is something the whole board would want to talk about anyway. And because we're trying to move quickly, we decided to bypass it and just put it before the whole body.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, no other discussion? So looks like the next meeting is March.
you have to,
Receive and file.
Receive and file these reports.
I did, I thought we did.
No.
No,
We talked about it.
Not on the ambulance.
not on this one that Jesse talking, or the other.
Oh, the other three. So,
Ambulance,
That's-
medical examiners and the veterans.
and you can do those in one
Right.
motion.
Yeah, so we'd need a motion to file and receive and file.
We'll make the motion.
Okay. And second it, okay. We have no other discussion. Next meeting, March 17th.
You have to call the vote.
I'll vote.
Oh, okay,
All those in favor and opposed.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Okay, we don't have anything else? Nope. We can move on to the next meeting, March 17th. Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.